Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia Ferrari, and I'm on the NAM Talent Management and Training team. And today I'm going to talk with you about network and mentoring relationships. And I want to let you know that I am joined by Carly Rosenfeld and Colin Murphy, who will be monitoring questions. Before I get started with the actual presentation, I want to point out to you that on the right side of your screen, there's a panel. And if you have a question, please type that question into the panel, and then I will pause periodically to address any questions that will come up. I also want to let you know that we will make we are recording the session, and we'll make a copy of the recording and the presentation available to you as well. Okay then, so let's get started. I love this quote by Bill Clinton, and to me it really highlights everything that we're going to talk about today. We cannot build our own future without helping others to build theirs. I love that. Let's look at the agenda. So we have 3 topics on our agenda: brand building, relationship building, and network building. Brand building refers to self. Relationship building refers to building a relationship with a mentor. And network building is talking about career-focused connections. So in your career, there are different relationships and reactions that help you support your career goals. First, there's you. And how you support those career goals is through your performance and your career aspirations. Next, there's an advocate. An advocate is someone who's not actively helping you, but he or she is aware of who you are, and they may speak highly of you to others. For instance, an advocate could be your department head. You may not be reporting to that individual, or you may not have worked with him or her, but he or she is aware of who you are and the good work that you've done, and that he or she speaks highly of you. Or it could be someone in another department or another team who has knowledge, again, of the good work that you've done. Next, there's your coach. Your coach actively helps you and directs you with your learning and development. Typically, your coach is going to be your manager. Then there's your mentor. This is someone that you rely upon for advice and support in a targeted area that is stronger than you. The mentor is typically an expert. Could be an expert with the Force, as we saw in Star Wars, or it could be an expert in negotiation or presentation. Again, this is someone who's more expert than you that you're seeking out. And then lastly, there's the network relationships you have. And these are individuals that you reach out to under certain situations as needed. Let's take a look and compare a mentor and a networking contact. With a mentor, this is someone that you meet with regularly. You'll have planned meetings, whatever that cadence happens to be. In terms of the relationship, as you begin the relationship, typically you have some knowledge of each other and know each other. And the purpose is to be able to help you develop and for the mentor to be able to advise you in that area. A networking contact, your meetings are going to be more random. They're going to be casual. It could be a stranger, an acquaintance that you know from some professional association. And the purpose of reaching out to that networking contact is to exchange information or assistance. So let's move to our first topic of the agenda, brand building. And so I want you to take a look at this slide. And there's 5 ways in which you can build your personal brand. The product, what you're known for in the workplace, your persona, what people say about you when you leave the room, promotion, how do you promote yourself internally in an authentic way, up, across, and down through the organization. What's your potential? What would colleagues say your untapped potential is? And presence, how do you present yourself to others? When we think about presence, we want to think about, think about a recent meeting that you've been in. And in that meeting, and it wouldn't be a remote meeting such as today, it'd be difficult to make the observations, but in that meeting room, you may have seen people who are on their laptops, their phone, looking out the window, but you may also have seen people who were sitting with their hands on the table, very attentively listening. There's two very strong nonverbal messages there. One is disengagement and one is engagement. And there's another way of looking at presence. Think about a new program that's been introduced into an organization. Is someone an early adopter, or are they a naysayer and they speak negatively about it? So these are the 5 areas that contribute to your brand building. When you get a copy of the slides, one of the things that you may want to do is answer the following questions from 2 perspectives. What is my ideal and what is the reality? What do I want my ideal product to be? How do I ideally want to be known into the workplace? What do I think the reality is? What is my ideal persona that I want people to say about me when I'm not in the room? What is the reality? Etc. Once you've gone through and you've answered those 2 questions on these 5 areas, what you then want to do is do some action planning. You want to take a look at the answers to each of those. What's the reality of my product and what's my ideal? Is there a gap there? If there's a gap there, I might want to then take and identify steps that I can close that gap. It might be important for me to consider if I want to identify someone who can help support me on this action steps. And if I think I need a mentor, I want to think about someone who's highly skilled in this area that can help me develop and identify, and someone I can reach out to. So let's look at a mentor from a literary perspective. Mentor was a real person. He was an Ithacan noble in Homer's Odyssey. And he was a very wise counselor to his friend Ulysses. And he was so trusted by Ulysses that he was entrusted with the care, education, and protection of his son. So therein is the historical perspective of where mentor came from. So what are the benefits of mentoring? Mentoring can help us gain knowledge and skills. It can help us become more effective in our job, understanding organizational culture and activities, and gain new opportunities and contacts, and achieve, greater career and business success. It may also, if we enter into a mentoring relationship and have a mentor, we may also over time have the opportunity to play it back and be a mentor to someone else. So a mentoring relationship is a helping relationship in which someone reaches out to a more experienced person who's skilled and invests time and energy to help that individual in their professional growth. It's a developmental relationship by nature. It may be short-term, it may be long-term. A mentor is someone who's got some basic knowledge of you and your background, and it's someone who knows you in either a personal or a professional way. Once you enter into the relationship, it will evolve over time. And the mentoring relationship should always be voluntary. People should enter into this voluntarily. Someone should not be directed or to enter into a mentoring relationship. It needs to be voluntary so that both can give and receive as much as they need to. So when you enter into a mentoring relationship, it's important to really know what it is, what your goals are, and to seek mentors who are subject matters in that particular area. And if you want to enter into a mentoring relationship, it's really up to the mentee to initiate and form that relationship. And then a mentor provides guidance and information in a clear, non-judgmental way. And together, by knowing what the expectations are, being able to form the relationship, these goals can be met. So, mentoring can happen on, any number of topics. It could be financial or business acumen, it can be political savvy, strategic thinking, negotiation, delegation, managing conflict. And we may reach out to different people at different times. Once early in my career, I wanted to improve my presentation skills. I knew that it was going to be something that was going to be important for my career path that I had selected. And I looked through the organization at the time, and I did identify someone who was highly skilled in this area. And I reached out to that individual, and we were able to establish some goals over what I wanted to do and how I wanted to improve. And, the benefits are, acquiring knowledge and skills, coaching, advice, guidance, and support, and looking possibly at new opportunities. To make the most of your mentoring relationship, it's important to have clear objectives for what your professional growth is. Sometimes people think that they want to have a mentor, but they're not sure what they want to discuss or where they want to improve. So it's really important to be clear on what it is you want to do. And again, you're looking at someone to help you. You need to ask for what it is and when you need it. And it's also important to listen and to respect the feedback. And for those of you that don't know the 70-20-10 rule, 70% of our development is really through on the job and through practice. 20% is going to come from coaching or mentoring, and only 10% really comes from formal training and formal training. Once you are in your mentoring relationship, you want to be able to communicate your progress and to set new goals. If you've accomplished a goal, you want to get better, you want to set a new goal. And if it's possible, you want to be able to reciprocate it in any way possible. As you enter into the mentoring relationship, it's very important to be able to build trust. And when it comes to trust, there's two types of people. There's the first type who they'll trust until they're given a reason not to. They trust everyone. They're trusting. And then there's the individual who they will trust, but you have to earn that trust first. And part of building trust is being able to discuss and maintain confidentiality, because a mentor may share private information that it's important to not share with multiple others. That individual sharing it with you to help you with your development and your learning. But again, it's important to maintain that. And part of that may be because sometimes a mentor is not a supervisor or manager. They may discuss their supervisor or manager. So what do I mean by that? So let's look at me. Let's say, for instance, I'm having a challenge with my manager. It's not that he's a bad person, I'm just having a challenge. I may go and seek out someone else to talk to in regards to those challenges to help me work through it. And again, that doesn't mean that he's bad or I'm bad. It just means this is a challenge. So, when you discuss those types of things, it's important to be able to maintain that confidentiality. And building trust happens through consistent demonstration of the behavior. So here we have two columns. One is a list of actions that help build trust. The second column, conversely, is a list of actions that breaks trust. I'm not going to read the whole list because, again, you're going to get the presentation and you can look through it. But you build trust when you help build people up. Trust can be broken if you insult or ridicule others. You build trust when you listen to what others say. Trust can be broken if, you ignore people or you don't listen. You build trust when you're authentic and transparent. Trust can be broken if you're manipulative or have a hidden agenda. And so these are a list of behaviors that build trust and break trust. And, it's quite possible it's not a complete list, but it's a list of things to keep in mind. And after you get the presentation, you may want to look through it and even discuss this with some of your colleagues or your supervisor or your manager. So again, some of the benefits are learning and acquiring a broader perspective, and learning's a two-way street. For both people, for both the mentor and the mentee. And it's validation and reinforcement, and it can provide personal satisfaction to both the mentor and the mentee. And I love this quote by Robert Ingersoll: "We rise by lifting others up." Carly, I'm going to pause and ask if there's any questions at this point.
So currently we actually don't have any questions, but I just want to remind people that you can type in any questions you have into the question box, and I will be monitoring those and be able to ask Alicia them. So if you do have questions, don't hesitate to type them and we will answer at the time that's necessary.
Okay, thank you, Carly.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to make the most of our monthly mentor meetings, and it doesn't have to be monthly, monthly is just up here, it can be whatever cadence is actually set. It's important to set expectations and agreements, and to negotiate agreements between both the mentor and the protege. A mentor is a good sounding board, coach, or advisor. He or she can, help open doors or make connections. A protege's role is in setting goals and tracking progress, making sure that there's an agenda and taking care of the meeting logistics. So if you're doing this at an office, at a DS office, then making sure that you're sending out the meeting invitation, you're making sure that there's a meeting room that you can meet in, and the mentee is also ensuring that there's an agenda for the meeting overall. Again, if you're doing it remotely, the mentee is still going to send out the meeting invitation and make sure that all of those logistics are met. And again, the need to maintain confidentiality. When you're setting goals, you might want to keep in mind the SMART acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And in doing that, it's probably important to document those goals and to document a development plan. Get feedback throughout the course of the meetings in terms of what has been set out to be done, what was actually done, and get feedback on what worked and maybe what could have made it work a little bit better. And when you're doing your development plan, brainstorm on objectives, measurement activities, and a realistic time frame. And look at the way in which a mentor can help. And brainstorm areas of development and how the mentor can help utilizing the development plan. And again, you want to get agreement from the mentor on commitments that are made. And a development plan should really be the basis for a mentor relationship. It helps keep focused on the goals, and this way you can review progress periodically and set and agree on these expectations. The development plan also provides structure and tools for the mentoring relationship. And, I think that those things that are written down generally happen. So the formality of it really increases the likelihood of a productive relationship and better ability to focus on achieving the goals. And it's really important to maintain the relationship, respecting the mentor, their time, and accepting feedback non-defensively. It is important to internalize the feedback that you've been given and find ways to apply what you've learned and to follow through on commitments and discuss outcomes. It's important to know if you've gotten advice from a mentor to let them know what worked and to thank them. Let them know that you're appreciative of what they've shared with you, the time they've spent with you, etc. So before moving on, Carly, are there any questions?
Yeah, so there is one question, and it says, how do we handle situations when a mentor says something such as the mentee's work was not, I guess, adequate enough in front of others while the mentee is present?
Yeah, that's a really tough situation. If something like that were to happen, and hopefully it wouldn't happen, but sometimes things like that may happen, I would meet one-on-one with the mentor and just really bring to light that the way in which the situation was handled and the feedback was given was done in a way that was somewhat judgmental and wasn't and embarrassed the person, quite frankly. And that's how I would handle it. I would then I'd take it offline, have a one-on-one conversation, let them know that I felt embarrassed by the way in which you gave feedback. And I think it would also be important to have a discussion around ensuring that that wouldn't happen again. Or if the mentor felt that he or she couldn't have a relationship without handling feedback in that way, it might be important to then consider whether or not you would end the relationship and try to find another mentor.
Yeah, okay. Good answer. Let me just read this one real quick. So how can you identify someone who is qualified to be and is interested in being a mentor? It seems that many people have the knowledge but may not be able to truly develop a junior member due to lack of ability to guide.
So, I mean, I guess there's a couple of things that come to mind with that. One is, as you're considering this individual, have you seen evidence of this person providing guidance to others? And if you've seen evidence of this person providing guidance to others, was it done in a way in which someone could learn from? If the answer is no, then you probably want to move over to someone else who might be on your list. Let's say, for instance, there may not be someone else on your list. You may want to go to that person and let them know that you want to learn this specific skill. Is there someone that he or she could recommend that might be able to help? And I think lastly, if you just reach out to someone and say, look, I know that you're really good in this particular area. This is an area that I'm looking to gain knowledge and grow expertise. Would you be willing to help me? And the person will say yes or no. But if you don't think that person has the skills, ask them to recommend someone that he or she thinks does.
Okay. Another one is, does DS have any sort of mentor, I guess, list or program where people who are interested can basically inquire about?
No, we don't have anything of that nature with that amount of structure. If someone thinks that they're interested in getting a mentor, they can always go and they can talk with their manager. They can talk with other people who are knowledgeable inside of DS. They can go to their HR business partner to see if that person has any suggestions. That's how I think I'd handle it.
And I guess that's to be menteed, I guess. But is there anywhere where we can? Do you have any suggestions for being a mentor? Let's say someone does have the ability to be qualified to be a mentor. Is there anywhere you would suggest them to inquire about that? Or would you suggest the same?
I think it's really almost the same. As I was listening to you ask the question, if I felt that I had, and actually this is true, this is a true story. There was something that I felt that I had to offer to other members on our team. And I went to my manager and I mentioned it to him, and he was agreeable, and I went about it. So, I would do that, or I would even go to, my HR business partner if I thought that there was something that I had that I could offer to others. I would ask him or her what might be the best way for me to go about being a mentor. What do you suggest? And, it might be a slower process when you have all of this information or you want to do this for people, but I'm sure it'll happen.
Okay. So I think that sums up our little question break for right now, but we will have another one towards the end.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so building your network. What is network? Networking's a process, and it's something that's really lifelong, of meeting people, making contacts, and building mutually beneficial professional relationships. And it's also about wanting to help people who also want to help you. These are career-focused professional relationships designed to connect you to others in a similar or a desired field. So let's look at some networking relationships. So there you are in the center, and these are all of the possible relationships that you can have a networking relationship on. It could be your team leader, it could be your a vendor, it could be a colleague of your team leader, it could be people that report to you, it could be internal clients and customers or external clients and customers. It might be other colleagues. So there's a host of possibilities of network relationships. And there might be some that, as you look at the list, you may not necessarily see on here, but as you review the presentation, you may want to add in others that you think might be helpful to you in terms of establishing a network relationship. So as you build your network, you're looking for opportunities for networking, and you're offering for help. If you're offering for help, you want to show a genuine interest and desire to help others, and you want to be able to draw out in others areas of which you can help them, learning their needs and their wants, and looking for opportunities to offer ideas or contacts or other assistance. You want to become an ongoing link to people for information and resources. When you're offering help and then you're asking for help, you're creating a mutually beneficial relationship. When you're asking for help, it's important to let others know what you need, want, or what type of help would be important. People are asked for help all the time. So don't be shy, be assertive. Ask for what you need and be clear about what it is and specific in your request. You can say things such as, can you recommend? Do you know anyone who? Would you be willing to? Okay, all easy ways of asking for help. And you want to exchange contact information. It used to be that you would just exchange a business card, but times have really changed. If you're in Waltham and you're meeting someone, you may want to say, I'm Carly, I'm in HR, and, I'm up on the second floor. Or, I work for DS, you can find me in People 360. People 360, by the way, offers a wonderful way of reaching out to others in the organization, people that you may not even know, who might be able to help you. Let's take a look at me for a minute. I'm in talent management. There might be something that I might want to learn, and I might want to find an internal expert in the company. What I could then do is go over to the DS1 dashboard under the roles model. I would go under people and environment, and I'm doing this from memory, so forgive me if I get one or two things wrong, but I'll go over to people and environment. I'll look up the job descriptions that fall within the talent management family. When I highlight a specific description, on the left panel of my screen, it's going to list all of the individuals within the organization that are in that area. And I might be able to then identify someone who could help me. So that's a wonderful tool that we have internally that's available. You know, externally, we also have LinkedIn as well. But as you build your network, one of the things that you want to be able to be sure that you do is, as you add people to your network, you want to ensure that you have some type of method that helps you remember what the focus is of that person, so that if you have a need in that area, you're then able to go and to identify that individual. And you always want to follow up. You know, if you reach out to someone and you ask for, you know, some assistance or information or resources, you want to make sure that you follow up, you thank them, and let them know, hey, this was really helpful. I was able to find this type of vendor, etc. And then a network's only as good as how you maintain it. So in order to make the most of your network, you have to be active with it. You have to seek people out. You have to try to talk to them periodically, schedule meetings, and that's the best way of really maintaining your network overall. Okay, so here's a list of tips. To get help, give help. Know what it is you want to do. Know your goals. Always be genuine and trustworthy. Join groups of interest and hold positions. In HR, there's all sorts of different types of associations that are available. And I say HR because that's the functional area that I know the best. It's my focus area. And, you know, I know in some of the associations I've been in, I've, you know, held positions on the board or volunteer committees, etc. It's a great way of becoming known and also offering some expertise to others. You know, become known as a resource to people. Talk to people, keep track of who does what, and again, be clear on what it is that you want to get or what you want to learn. So, Carly, do we have any questions?
We are in the clear for right this second. If anyone, again, go ahead and type them in. If you, even if it's in the previous conversation, go ahead and type them in if you want any answered.
Thanks, Carly. Okay.
Actually,
yep.
You do have a question. So, how would you end a mentorship that doesn't seem to bring the expected results?
You know, I would be clear, professional, and honest. And, you know, I might meet with someone and say, you know, I think we've taken this as far as we can. I want to thank you for your time. And I would end it that way. Because if you're feeling that way, chances are maybe the mentor's feeling that way. So that's the direct way of handling it. The other thing that I might advise is that as you're thinking about being in a relationship with a mentor and you're feeling that it's not bringing you the expected results, I would also go through a process of analyzing that. What were the goals that you set? Were the goals agreed to by the mentor? You know, were they realistic and timely? And if the answer to that was yes, and it just hasn't worked out, then I would then go ahead and communicate such as I did. But if maybe there was some ambiguity with the goals and what the expectations were between the two of you, you might first want to try to refine that and then give it another try.
Okay. All right. So how do you know how much is okay to share with an external contact without revealing internal information about the company?
Yeah, you have to maintain the company confidentiality. And, you know, without knowing a specific situation, it's really hard for me to be helpful in that area. You know, it might be something that if someone's currently in that position, that they might want to talk to first with their HR business partner. But again, typically when you're looking at a mentoring relationship, you're looking in areas of improving a skill. So, if it's focused on, improving a skill of your financial acumen, your business acumen, presentation skills, those aren't things that involve confidentiality. So my advice would be to talk with your HR business partner to really fully understand what it is you might need in that particular situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And if there's go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say it looks like a mentor might ask for examples, maybe of, I'm assuming, of what they're looking to go to. I just asked to elaborate a tiny bit, but we can, if you have something else to add, you can go ahead, Alicia.
You know what? Why don't we take that one offline and then respond afterwards?
Sure, you got it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other than that, I think we're in the clear to keep going.
Okay. Okay, so let's look at relationship building. So, obviously as we enter into relationships, we want to be able to grow those relationships. Let's take a look at the GROW model. So first off, a mentee needs to ask themselves they need to establish a goal. I've come to you because I want to learn more about presentation skills, financial acumen. I want to understand the organizational climate a little bit better. Then you need to take a look at the reality. This is what has been happening and what I've tried. Explain your results and the obstacles encountered. In other words, let's go back to presentation skills. I want to be really good in presenting information and materials. I've done these types of things. I thought having more slides at one time was always better. It made me look really smart. But in the reality, it really doesn't, because it's conveying too much information. And I don't get through all of my slides. You want to look at options. What would you have done in my position? So if I had too many slides, what would you have done? What suggestions do you have? If you were my mentor, what would you recommend for me? And lastly, here's what I plan to do. I want to be specific on the timing. I want to be specific on the order. I want to think about the potential risk or pitfalls that may come up. And how would you prevent or overcome these challenges? So these are things that you're asking the mentor in order to grow. A mentor, on the other hand, is going to ask a potential mentee, what's your goal? What is it that you want to discuss? What's been happening? What have you tried? So again, mirroring those questions back to the mentee. If you were to do this, how might you go about it? Thinking through options that the mentee can work through. Are any of these of interest enough to explore further? Do you want further suggestions from me? If you were your own coach, what would you recommend? Again, stretching that individual out. And then the way forward. So, what and when is the next step? Have you thought about things that might get in the way? If so, what's your plan, or how do you think you might overcome them? What's your strategy? And then lastly, relationships take time. Relationships are formed for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And then, we have Dilbert, who's one of my favorites. Would you be my mentor? It's better for me if none of my underlings are qualified to take my job. I think you just taught me something. I hate it when I do that. So at any rate, that is everything that I was prepared to present. Are there any other questions?
So I haven't had any come in, but I was wondering if, in the meantime, if people are still thinking or producing questions. Alicia, do you have any questions for employees where they can type in their answer, or are you content with the way it's gone?
I think I'm okay with the way it's gone. And if people have questions for me afterwards, they can always just email me.
Of course.
Or email Carly, and she'll collect all the questions, and we can make those answers available. So whichever you're comfortable with.
Does Art 3D University have any courses on mentoring, on, if I can only talking about mentoring, or, you know, leading to how to learn how to mentor, vice versa?
You know, I'm not really sure, but you know, what I'm wondering is if we were to go over to the university. Oh, I can't do that. So here's what I would recommend. I would go over to 3D University, and I would go into, there's 3 topics, go into the middle one, and I can't remember exactly what it states, which I'm embarrassed to admit, but I'll admit. Once you go in there, go into the content catalog and type in mentoring and see what comes up. And after today's discussion, I'll do the same and see what I can find, and I'll make that available to Carly so that we can include that as part of the presentation as well. And then I'll also ask some of my colleagues if they have any recommended books or readings or anything of that nature on the topic of mentoring, and we'll make that available as well.
Okay. I was actually just looking on myself to see if I could. Okay. So looks like there was a question about books that we can recommend about learning more on the subject, so I can let that person know once Alicia lets me know.
Yeah.
Would lynda.com be a possible resource for mentoring?
Possibly. You know,
I feel like it's exploration needed kind of a question. I think we need to
right.
explore ourselves before,
right.
but
right.
we can definitely figure that out.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is that when you do the search in the content catalog, it's very possible that there will be a lynda.com course in there that someone can utilize. But we'll have to do a little bit of research on the topic internally.
And they're actually, we were just told by an employee, which is very nice, thank you for answering that, there, and I just did it myself, if you type in mentor in the 3DS content catalog, there looks like there are 3 sessions you can look at, and it says, how can you find your reverse mentor, effective listening, which is also mentoring, and becoming a good mentor. So that could be first glance type of things to look into for mentoring.
Oh, excellent. And does that person say it's an e-learning document or a classroom session?
It's e-learning.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yes. How do we get to know in advance for the next 3DS Wellness sessions? We'll send out emails about that. So we post, just a side note, we post these on our rewards@3ds.com website. So you'll be able to click on the Life tab and go to Pathway to Wellness webinars, and all the recordings are there. And we send out emails from America's HR that let people know what wellness, Pathway to Wellness webinars we're going to have coming up. So just a little side note, that's how you get to them if you are looking for a recording, and then you'll see an email from America's HR. So back to the mentoring idea. If there are things you as a mentor think the mentee need, but they're not interested, how much do you push, or how far should you go? Where's the balance between the two?
So if I understand the question is if a mentee goes to a possible mentor and they're not sensing a strong interest, how far to push?
Exactly.
You know, I would put the question out there, and I think if someone says, geez, I'm not sure, there's not enough time, I think it's, you know, to me it indicates that they really aren't interested, and it may not work. So I wouldn't push it too hard, but I would follow up with, hey, if you don't have the time to be able to do this, or if you don't think you're able to do this, is there someone else you could recommend or is there someone else that you know of in the organization that you could recommend? I mean, always look for another connection. And there's two things that happen with that. One is it's a way of increasing your personal network, and the other way is making sure that you get the help that you're really looking for. But, you know, to answer the original question, if your sense is they're not that interested, then, you know, I wouldn't push it far at all.
Okay, so this question, basically, for example, I'm looking for a mentor who would be able to help me figure out where do I want to be in 5 years at DS. They're not comfortable talking to that person, the mentor that they see fit. How do they approach them? So this could be universal. How do you technically approach a mentor to a prospective, I guess, mentor? How would you do the language around that?
Assuming that this is someone that you know and someone who knows you as well, I would set up a meeting invitation. I would send a meeting invitation, set up a meeting, a brief meeting, and I would let them know that I want to talk with you in regards to, you know, career type topics. Personal either accept or not, and if they accept, which is what we hope, then prepare your agenda of what you want to address with that person. And it might be that you've selected that person because you admire the progress that they've made in their own career as well. And once you're meeting with them, you might want to let them know that as well. But, you know, if it's someone that you know, and someone who knows you, I would either call them or ask to meet with them, and again, to talk about career topics. I mean, you don't want to go into a lot of detail in terms of what the purpose is. So if someone hears that you want to talk about career, you know, I think that they'll probably be able to connect the fact that, you know, you might want to add that you want to ask them advice career related, and they'll either accept or not. And, you know, most people will probably accept the meeting, and if they feel that they can help you, they'll let you know that, and if they feel that they can't, they'll let you know that as well. But again, going back to what we heard throughout the course of the presentation, once you're in the meeting, be very specific on what it is you're looking to get from them, what your goal is. Did that help?
I'll let that person respond, and it was a yes. So yes, excellent. That helped.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, and another question is, I'm not sure if I would not sure about it, but does DS have any plans to tie this subject into the My Compass now that career development is more ingrained in the annual review compared to the previous PDC plans that were ignored as optional?
There is a module that's coming out that is learning related, and I believe it's coming out either Q1 or Q2.
Okay. So that's helpful. Okay. Leave it another minute for anybody to ask any more questions, but they're good so far. Pretty complicated, but in the best way. Again, the webinar will be recorded, and it will be available at the rewards@3ds.com site. That's our Total Rewards website. Okay, well, if we don't have any other questions, you can always email me, Carly Rosenfeld, or Alicia, and we can definitely get those answered. And if you have anything personal that you'd want to talk about as well regarding the mentoring, don't hesitate to contact us. But I think that this has summed it up. So thank you, Alicia.
Well, thank you, and thanks to all of you who participated on the call today.
Thank you.